Saya share the screen. So last time saya share satu dokumen, so it does not work well. Okay, so kita tengok yang ni. The topic is members and creditors voluntary winding up. Okay, so this is the focus is voluntary winding up. So when we talk about members voluntary winding up, it means the winding up is proceeded ataupun initiated. Yang buat proses tu is the members of the company. And if it is a creditors voluntary winding up, the process is initiated by the creditors of the company. So that's the two different. What makes the difference in terms of the names? Yeah. Okay. When we talk about the word voluntary winding up, voluntary, it means it does not involve court. So that means the company ataupun the creditors of the company do not go to the court in order to get the order of the winding up. So the process is conducted among the members and creditors of the company, together with the directors of the company for sure. Okay, so that's the members and creditors voluntary winding up. Okay, they are so as the name suggests, yang sebelum ni topik kita, there are two modes of winding up, cara lah modes of winding up. That is, the first one is the voluntary winding up. Yeah, so that's the focus of the topic today. Okay, and then the other one is the winding up by the court. So I think this topic has been covered to some extent in your company law. Yeah, tahun berapa ambil? Tahun 3 ke company law. Yeah. Okay, so the word compulsory winding up is commonly referred to for the winding up in which the order is given by the court. Yeah, so it involves the court giving order for the company to be wound up. Yeah, okay, so later baru kita tengok differences between the two. So today we focus on the voluntary winding up. Yeah. Okay, so this is the provision on the voluntary winding up is provided in Part 4 of the Companies Act 2016. Yeah, so please read the provision. Yeah, so Section 439 says, subsection 1, a company may be wound up voluntarily, so outside of the court, without the order of the court. So there are two situations here. Yeah, there are two situations. Kalau tengok kat sini kat end, yeah. So, what are the situation in which the company is to be wound up? Yeah, so the first one is when the period, if any, period to the duration of the company, which is fixed by memorandum or article for the duration of the company expires. Okay, for example, if the company is set up to mungkin untuk for 2 years, for example, to implement mungkin satu government punya policy ataupun action, mungkin yang penjana ni kan masa because of the COVID, the government launched so many mechanism kan to rescue the economy of the country. So in such a situation, it is common for companies to be set up for certain duration only. Ataupun kalau nak buat event like macam ada sukan contohnya, macam Malaysia represent, mungkin Malaysia organize sukan, mungkin sukan Asia, for example, sukan C, for example. So in such a situation, the company can be set up for certain duration, mungkin daripada tempoh 2 tahun daripada mungkin before ataupun for the purpose of the organisation of the event. Okay, and then at the end of the duration, mungkin 2 tahun, at the end of the duration, then the company may be wound up voluntarily. Okay, simply because the time period expire. Yeah. Okay, another situation in which the company may be wound up voluntarily is the event, yeah, a company is established for the purpose of an event, yeah, mungkin to organize sukan contohnya. So dia kata this is for certain purpose only. Okay, and then once the if it yang ni okay, so this is the situation in which dalam memorandum or article of the association of the company fix ataupun specify certain event for the company to be dissolved. Okay, in such a situation, then the company can be wound up voluntarily. So dia tak semestinya lah it happen abruptly according to the memorandum or article of association, but upon the occurrence of the event. Yeah. Okay, and then when these two situation occurs ataupun bila the period expire ataupun the event occurs, so there must be a resolution, a resolution in a general meeting of the company requiring the company to be wound up voluntarily. So that is the provision. So for example, if the duration for the establishment of the company expire, okay, and then for the winding up of the company has to conduct a general meeting, okay, and then pass a resolution for the company to be wound up. Okay. And it's also open for the company to be resolved by special resolution. Yeah? So this is regardless of the two event happening, to the period ataupun the event. So ini yang dalam B dekat sini. So in such a situation, for example, if the company is mungkin feels that the directors of the company feels that they are no longer relevant, for example, the products that they are selling are no longer relevant, for example, so they can wind up the company voluntarily. So the process must be by way of special resolution, that is the agreement achieved ataupun made in a general meeting conducted by the company. Yeah? So that is voluntary winding up. Yeah? Okay, so these are the situation in which the company may be wound up voluntarily. Okay, so how is it? So it has been covered here. So how is it? It is only in the company's meeting. Okay, so it does not involve court order. Yeah, so it's only the discussion within the company meeting. Yeah, company's meeting. Okay, and the company's the members, the creditors agree to achieve the resolution. Yeah? So it says here, a meeting of the company must be called to pass a resolution for winding up. Yeah? The resolution must be by way of special resolution. Special resolution ni macam dia macam substantial majority. Yeah? So when the time fixed for the duration of the company has expired, ordinary resolution will do. So maksudnya simple majority will do. Yeah? So a company may not resolve to wind up voluntarily if an application has been made for its winding up by the court on the ground of its inability to pay its debt. Yeah, unless the court give leave. Okay, so this is the condition in which if, for example, the company has received petition from the creditors for the company to be wound up by the court, so then the company cannot proceed to resolve to wind up the voluntarily on its own. Yeah? So the situation is it there must be no proceeding at the court. Yeah? So then the company can proceed for the voluntary winding up. Okay, so now we talk about the difference between members and creditors voluntary winding up. What is it? So basic idea is that the members voluntary winding up can only be initiated when a company is solvent. Yeah? Solvent means they are able to pay its debt. Yeah? All of the debt, all of the liabilities upon macam towards ending the company. So the assets must be sufficient to pay all of the liabilities of the company. Yeah? So that's the basic requirement ataupun condition for the members voluntary winding up to be conducted. Okay, therefore, the requirement for solvency is the main factor, differentiating. This is the main difference between the members voluntary winding up and a creditor's voluntary winding up. So, if, for example, the company is solvent, then the members can proceed to voluntarily wind up the company. So, if the company is insolvent, then the members cannot voluntarily wind up the company. So the only option ataupun say ataupun orang yang pegang decision maker tu is the creditors, who can voluntarily wind up a company. yang bawah ni tak nampak okay, where the directors make a declaration of solvency in accordance with section 443, the winding up proceed as the members of voluntary winding up. Yeah. So the declaration of solvency must be made before the notice of the meeting are sent out. Yeah. So later kita tengok dia punya proses. Yeah. So basic idea is that the directors before dia decide untuk for the company to be wound up, dia kena investigate lah the situation of the company, the account, dia punya health of the company, whether the assets of the company are sufficient to meet the liabilities of the company. Yeah. So if it is good, if the company is found to be solvent, boleh bayar lah ke semua hutang, komitmen semua. So then the director has to make a declaration of solvency. Yeah, so this is the wording in section 443. So then the director will issue notice to all of the creditors, the members of the company, to comes to a meeting. Set up for this purpose. So in such a situation, it will proceed as a members voluntary winding up. Yeah. If they do not, it will be a creditors voluntary winding up. So maksudnya, if the director feels that ataupun dalam declaration, dalam statement of the directors, the company shows to be is shown to be solvent. So in such a situation, members voluntary winding up cannot be taken, cannot be proceeded. So then it will be creditors voluntary winding up. So therefore dia tak adalah macam bila dia start as proceeding as voluntary winding up, dia dah namakan this is members voluntary winding up, this is creditors voluntary winding up. So it depends on the situation of the company. If the company is insolvent, then the greater say would be the creditors voluntary winding up. Yeah. Okay, kita tengok declaration of solvency. What is it? Under section 443. So it is a written declaration to the effect that the directors have made an inquiry into the affairs of the company. Yeah, so this is like macam investigation lah. Dia tengok company, dia punya financial affairs, whether it's good or not. Okay, and at a meeting of the directors, have formed the opinion that the company will be able to pay its debt in full. So that means before they come to the meeting, the company's meeting yang untuk special resolution tu, so they have to investigate the affairs of the company, okay, and then set up a meeting of the directors, okay, and then consider whether the company will be able to pay its debt in full, within the period here. The period is given that is not exceeding 12 months after the commencement of the winding up. Okay, so who make the declaration? It's the director. Where it is proposed to wind up a company voluntarily, the director, or in the case of a company having more than one director, the declaration must be made by majority of the directors. Okay, so this is about the declaration of solvency, which must be made before the company's meeting. Okay, and then the decision as to whether the company is solvent or not is made in the directors meeting. Okay, the content of the declaration so this is commonly prepared by the auditors, the accountant of the company. So basic idea is that they will investigate the assets of the company and the total amount expected to be realized. Contoh dia ada harta, ada mungkin building for example, mungkin ada yang saham for example. So in such a situation, dia akan tengok what is the total amount of the company, asset of the company, and then what are the liabilities, how much is that liabilities of the company, and the estimated expenses of winding up. So it must be shown so that they know what is the financial position of the company. Okay, so that is the content of the declaration of solvency. Okay, so how it is to be made? So I think we have covered this. To be effective, it must be made at a directors meeting. Kalau contohnya macam directors seorang-seorang, mungkin one of the board of the director yang buat keputusan, so it would not be effective to proceed with the voluntary winding up. So time taken must not be earlier than 5 weeks before the passing of the resolution of the voluntary winding up. So that means the directors meeting achieving the ataupun agreeing to the declaration of the solvency must not be made macam dalam tempoh 5 weeks before the company's meeting. Okay, then it must be lodged with the ROC, registrar of company, before the dates on which the notice of the company are sent out. Yeah. Okay, any questions so far? Saya tutup pintu, kejap ada orang mesti rumput kat depan ni kan. Okay, kejap ya. Okay, so do I talk alone?
Doctor.
Sama. Okay.
Could you re-explain about the differences between the members and creditors money out? I don't quite understand on that part.
Alright. So what is the difference between the two? Okay, basic idea kita tengok yang dekat sini tadi kot members. Okay, basic idea the difference between members and creditors voluntary winding up is that the financial health of the company. So if the company is solvent, maksudnya dia boleh bayar hutang semua, can meet all of the commitment liabilities of the company. Including the cost of the winding up. So in such a situation, dia akan namakan dia ada the provision applies adalah provision relating to members voluntary winding up if it is solvent. Tapi kalau dia insolvent, mungkin dalam tempoh the directors punya investigation, they found out that the company is insolvent. Dia semak rupanya mungkin dia punya building tu dah jatuh harga, for example. Because all this while dia rasa macam dia punya assets are good, mungkin saham syarikat jatuh, for example. So in such a situation, when they found that their financial situation is insolvent, unable to pay his debt, so then the company has to proceed with creditors voluntary winding up. So that is the main difference between the two.
Oh, I see. So in terms of status lah, Doctor.
Betul. So
Okay.
because it started with the investigation as to the financial health of the company. So if it is solvent, then members voluntary winding up can be conducted. If it is insolvent, tak boleh bayar hutang, so then creditors voluntary winding up must be proceeded. So dia
kan kalau apa dia, Doktor?
I thought you are to explain something just now.
Oh ya, kiranya kalau untuk for members winding up, is the directors that will do the investigation to ensure whether the company is solvent or not, right?
Yes. Because the directors are to make declaration insolvent ataupun solvent. Tapi creditors pun dia boleh start voluntary winding up, tapi the declaration tu must be made by the directors. The creditors tu boleh initiate the process. Tapi as to whether it's solvent or insolvent tu, the directors kena letakkan declaration. So it's a duty under the law to ensure that the content of the declaration is correct. So if macam kalau it would be a negligence ataupun an offence under the law if the directors knows that dia punya content of the declaration tu is incorrect.
I see. So to determine whether it is falls under members winding up or creditors, we will look at the declaration.
Yes, sort of kalau dia punya condition sebab kalau orang luar macam creditors dia tak tahu situation of the company. Tapi mungkin bila company tu started not to pay debt apa semua tu kan. Okay, so that's bila ada process initiated by the creditors, then is the company's director has duty to prepare the declaration whether the company is solvent or not.
Oh, okay. Right. Got it.
Mhm. Ya, kita tengok proses dia nanti so that mungkin kita lebih jelas tentang bila dia jadi. So maksudnya dia macam fluid. Kalau contohnya macam the directors macam mungkin it may start from the directors ataupun the members of the company, or it may also start with the proposal on the part of the creditors. So when the creditors propose, mungkin dia buat meeting, dia propose untuk for the company to be wound up, because mungkin the directors mungkin propose untuk scheme of arrangement, mungkin certain scheme of arrangement fail, for example, okay, then mungkin the creditors feels that is nowhere for the company to continue, so then they propose for the company to be wound up. So in such a situation, the directors have to provide a declaration whether the company is solvent or not. Yeah. Okay, so kita tengok proses, nanti mungkin kita boleh alright.
Doktor, saya nak tanya yang slide sebelum tu tadi, yang declaration of solvency, how and when. Saya confuse yang not earlier than 5 weeks tu.
Okay, yang not earlier than 5 weeks, maksudnya tempoh dia, dia akan ada directors meeting. Okay, the directors meeting must be conducted maksudnya sekurang-kurangnya 5 minggu before the company's meeting. Dalam company's meeting, then the resolution may be passed. Okay, so yang ni tempoh duration for the declaration to be made. Yes, dia punya tempoh duration mungkin kalau Januari dia punya directors meeting, okay, and then they make declaration. So kalau Januari tu mungkin 5 minggu tu mungkin February baru boleh buat company's meeting in order to pass the resolution. So yang ni tempoh dia lah. Okay. So itu not earlier than 5 weeks tu, mungkin ayat tu macam ni jugalah kan. So tempoh dia tu sekurang-kurangnya 5 minggu. Dia tak boleh macam dalam tempoh 4 minggu dia buat directors meeting, kemudian dia buat companies meeting, tak boleh. Ya, tempoh tu kena 5 minggu so that the creditors can inspect the document, the declaration of solvency tu. Then any members of the company may also inspect, shareholders of the company, for example, may inspect the document. To mungkin kalau dia nak challenge ke the declaration of solvency tu, then they can do so. So this is to allow all of the people yang have interest over the company to consider to deliberate over the content of the declaration. Yang ni tempoh ni kat sini, not earlier than 5 weeks tu.
Okay, faham betul.
Okay, thank you. Ya. Okay, boleh kita tengok proses dia. Nanti saya boleh I think you will understand better. Yang dekat sini is it's about the director's duty in making a declaration. So it's a legal duty under the law. It's a duty for the directors to ensure that the content of the declaration is correct. So if under subsection 5 to section 443, a director who makes a declaration under this section without having reasonable ground for the opinion that the company will be able to pay its debt in full, contohnya dia buat declaration of solvency, whereas mungkin dia tahu that the company may not actually, mungkin sebenarnya tak boleh bayar hutang. Okay, so it is an offence to do so. Okay, so it is important for director of the company to ensure that the content of the declaration is correct. Okay, so yang ni ada dia punya punishment lah on conviction kalau dia punya content of the, sebab biasanya document is prepared by the accountant of the company kan, so director pun ada duty to ensure that the content of the document tu is correct. Okay, so kita tengok there are situation, there is a situation in which the members voluntary winding up may be changed ataupun converted to creditors voluntary winding up. Sebab tu saya kata it's fluid. Dia tak adalah dia kata okay, so we are proceeding with the voluntary winding up, members voluntary winding up. Okay, so and then mungkin satu lagi creditors voluntary winding up. So it's fluid actually. So it may be converted during the process itself. Yeah. So kita tengok yang dekat sini, a members voluntary winding up may be converted into a creditors voluntary winding up if the liquidator, appointed by the members, form an opinion that the debts of the company will not be paid in full within the period stated in the declaration of solvency. Okay, let's say the company started its members voluntary winding up, call upon all of the creditors to come to the company's meeting. Okay, and then they resolve for the company to be voluntarily winding up by the members of the company. Okay, and in the part of the meeting is that to appoint a liquidator. So liquidator ni orang yang akan uruskan company tu for the process of liquidation. Liquidation tu sama macam yang DGI, macam kita belajar untuk bankruptcy in which it has a role macam the liquidator tu boleh investigate the asset of the company, realize the asset of the company, dia boleh sell asset of the company. Okay, and then macam dia collect money for example yang due, mungkin they started legal proceeding. Okay, and then to in order to pay the debt to the creditors. Okay, so that's the job of the liquidator. Okay, in the process, mungkin lepas appointment of the liquidator, the liquidator upon macam further investigation found out that the company has no sufficient asset to pay all of the debts. So in such a situation, dia boleh tukarkan dia boleh propose the liquidator propose for the process of members voluntary winding up to become a creditors voluntary winding up. Yeah. Okay, so how is it? Dia boleh summon a meeting of the creditors. Maksudnya bagi notice pada creditor, datang, jumpa, sit down for a meeting. Okay, and then explain to them what is the situation of the company. Yeah? So it lays before them a statement of the asset and liabilities of the company. So maksudnya explain lah to the creditors. So dia pada pandangan dia kata the company will not be able to pay all of the liabilities of the company. So in such a situation, the company, the process of the winding up tu will become a creditors voluntary winding up. So yang akan take the driver's seat is the creditors, not the members anymore. Yeah. So what the creditors can do is that the creditors have the option to replace the liquidator with their own nominee. Yeah. So dalam dia punya orang yang dia percaya lah. Yeah, okay. So liquidator biasanya is a third party to the company. Tapi dalam members voluntary winding up is the dalam meeting yang company's meeting tu tadi, members voluntary winding up, members yang appointed the liquidator. So tapi in the event that the company is found to be insolvent, then the person ataupun types of person who may appoint the liquidator is the creditors. So kalau dia nak proceed with the liquidator which has been appointed before, then it's okay. Kalau dia nak replace the liquidator of their own pun boleh juga. Okay, so in such a situation, the winding up proceed as a creditors voluntary winding up, regardless of whether the creditors replace the liquidator or not. Okay, so that's the situation in which members voluntary winding up can change to creditors voluntary winding up. Yeah. Okay, so that's why it's really fluid depending on the financial affairs of the company. Okay, so kita tengok yang tadi tu, kita tengok yang members voluntary winding up kan. Kita tengok sikit sekejap. Saya rasa mungkin tengok prosedur, mungkin you will understand better sebelum kita tengok creditors voluntary winding up. Okay, so kat sini procedure to initiate a voluntary winding up. So this is for members voluntary winding up. So it started with the process of the directors to prepare a declaration of solvency, so which is resolved ataupun dia presented in the directors meeting. Okay, and then they resolve to have the declaration of solvency. Okay, and then upon the declaration of solvency being issued, okay, and then lodge in another copy at the ROC, Registrar of Companies. So then the company will issue a notice for a meeting. Ya, dekat sini notice of meeting. The notice of the meeting is to the creditors, to the members of the company and to all shareholders of the companies as well. So yang ni dalam company law lah kan. So most commonly members of the company adalah shareholders of the company. Tapi tak, shareholders of the company tak semestinya members of the company. Yeah? So members of the company must be the person yang registered as members of the company. Yeah? Okay, and then so orang-orang yang interested kat sini will be called upon in the meeting. Okay, and then during the meeting of the company, so they are to pass a resolution and to appoint a liquidator. Yang ni boleh kata summary yang kita discuss, yang kita tengok masa members voluntary winding up just now. Yeah? Okay, and then for the other situation, dia sama juga dekat creditors voluntary winding up. So in which there must be declaration, dia panggil kat sini dia panggil statutory declaration by directors, in which to say the financial situation of the company. Yang ni banyak buku teks yang refer sebagai declaration of insolvency. Sebab saya rasa to relate with this lah yang dekat sini declaration of solvency. Tapi dalam creditors voluntary winding up dia panggil sebagai declaration of insolvency. Tapi dalam dalam law, dalam provision tu dia tak ada sebut perkataan declaration of insolvency tu. So it is provided by statute and requirement for the directors to provide the declaration. So we refer to that declaration as statutory declaration by the directors as to the financial affairs of the company. Yes. So the process dia sama je. Okay, in this situation, instead of appointing the liquidator during the meeting of the company, so the creditors will appoint an interim liquidator sementara proses company's meeting. Okay, and then the notice of company's meeting will be given to the creditors, members of the company. Okay, and then the company's meeting will be conducted. And then they will pass the resolution for the companies to be wound up. Resolution ni decision lah, keputusan mesyuarat. Okay, and then they will also appoint a liquidator of their choice. So the person ataupun type of person having say as to who are the liquidators are the creditors of the company. So yang ni proses dia. So more or less they are similar except untuk creditors voluntary winding up, they akan appoint a interim liquidator to manage the process. Kalau dalam members voluntary winding up, the liquidator is appointed during the meeting of the company. Dia tak ada interim liquidator lah, terus liquidator tu. Okay, and then the liquidator will manage the liquidation of the company. Okay, so yang proses ni saya rasa macam make things clear before we look at the creditors voluntary winding up. Okay, so do you follow so far?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah. Okay, so kita tengok creditors voluntary winding up. Sini. Okay, so this is initiated in situation where the company is insolvent. So it may be initiated by a creditors. So winding up is it is we call it as creditors voluntary winding up when the declaration under section 443 yang declaration of solvency tadi tu kan has not been made. So maksudnya the director does not prepare the declaration under section 443 as to the solvency of the company. So in this situation, the directors will need to sign a statutory declaration under section 440 to the effect that the company cannot, by reason of its liabilities, continue its business. Yang tu statutory declaration. Dia panggil statutory declaration tu must be signed by the company and to be affirmed before the commissioner for oath. Ini macam kenyataan yang bersumpah lah ya. Okay, to say that the company is no longer able to continue its business. So this is commonly known as declaration of insolvency. Ya, dia tak boleh bayar hutang lah, tak cukup duit aset dia untuk bayar ke semua liabilities ya. So a creditor's voluntary winding up can also occur. So yang ni situation conversion tadi, when the liquidator appointed by members under a member's voluntary winding up form the opinion that the company will not be able to pay its debt in full within 12 months after the commencement of the company's voluntary winding up. Yeah? Okay, so yang ni conversion tadi. So maksudnya it started as members voluntary winding up in which the company's creditors have issued the declaration of solvency, but suddenly the liquidator found out that the company is unable to pay its debt. So then it will continue as the creditors voluntary winding up. In such a situation, proses ni start lah. Yeah, the directors kena sign statutory declaration apa semua tu. Okay, and then the creditors may change the liquidator if they want to, ataupun kalau they choose to continue with the liquidator which has been appointed by the company's meeting, then liquidator will continue to manage the liquidation until the end of the process. Yeah. Okay, so that is the creditors voluntary winding up. So kita tengok tentang liquidator. Yeah. Beza antara yang members and creditors winding up is that the appointment of the liquidator. So if the process is started by way of the statutory declaration made by the directors, then the creditors is the directors yang appoint, yeah, where the directors have made the SD, the statutory declaration. So they must appoint an approved liquidator to be the interim liquidator. So approved liquidator tu is the term which is provided under the Companies Act. So maksudnya orang yang qualified as a liquidator. Yang selalunya orang yang ada license as an accountant yang layak sebagai liquidator. Yeah? So the interim liquidator ni sementara sajalah ya, perkataan interim tu sementara before the process to conduct the process in between ataupun before the company's meeting is conducted. Yeah? Okay, he or she, the interim liquidator, has all the powers and function of a liquidator in a creditor's voluntary winding up. So the appointment continue for 1 month or until a liquidator is appointed at the creditors meeting. Okay, so mula-mula is the directors yang appoint interim liquidator when once the company found out that the company is no longer able to continue its business, they buat statutory declaration, they appoint the interim liquidator. Okay, later the creditors conducted a meeting, okay, and then appointed their own liquidator. Yeah? Okay, that is about the person who manage the process, liquidator ni. Okay, now we meeting of the company and the creditors. Yeah, so bila company's meeting tu, yes.
About the appointment of liquidator, maksudnya kalau liquidator tempoh cari dia adalah 1 bulan or until a liquidator is appointed, meaning to say kalau extend lebih daripada 1 month tu kira masih boleh ke?
Boleh lah sampai dia macam for example dia punya tempoh appointment tu, maksudnya dia punya creditors meeting tu kena buat dalam tempoh sebulan tu, sebab the appointment tu will expire 1 month. Yeah? So kalau dia until a liquidator is appointed, so maksudnya kalau contohnya dalam tempoh 2 minggu a liquidator is appointed by the creditors meeting, then the appointment of the interim liquidator appointed by the director will expire. Yeah?
I see, okay.
Alright. So kita tengok meeting just now kan. Okay, the meeting of the company and of its creditors must be made within 1 month of the date of the statutory declaration. So dia kena cepat lah, tempoh sebulan dia bagi ya. So the creditors meeting may be held on the same day with the members or companies meeting or on the following day of the members meeting. So maksudnya dia akan ada the members ataupun the companies meeting, okay, and then the creditors meeting. Okay, in situation of the conversion from members voluntary winding up to creditors voluntary winding up, the liquidator shall summon a meeting of the creditors. In situation yang situation kalau is started with the members voluntary winding up, okay, later the liquidator found out that the asset of the companies is not sufficient to pay all of the debt, so then they will summon the meeting of the creditors. Ya, tujuan dia adalah to determine the liquidators of the to manage the liquidation of the company. Yeah. So if they feel necessary, yeah, so they may appoint members of the committee of inspection from among the creditors who are present at the company. So if for example, if they feel that they want to have a say, ya, macam mungkin discussion ya, from the creditors ya, together with the liquidator to manage the liquidation process, then they can appoint a committee of inspection, they call it. Yeah, so the members of the committee itu adalah the creditors who are present at the creditors meeting. Ya, yang tu if they feel necessary. If not, then tak perlulah. Ya. Okay, kita tengok tentang committee of inspection. Apa dia? If it is necessary, if it is felt necessary by the liquidator ataupun by the company, ya, ataupun by the creditors dekat sini. Okay, so it is made up of not more than 5%. Yang ni committee members lah ya. So siapa yang boleh jadi members dia adalah creditors, the contributories to the company. Ya. So dah belajar kan who are the contributories to the company kan, dia ada macam contributories tu adalah commonly dia punya members of the company yang mana dia undertake kalau if the company is to be wound up, dia is liable to certain extent of the company's asset. Yang tu contributories. So maksudnya kalau mungkin the company tu terpaksa ditutup dan company tak ada duit contohnya, dia ada orang yang backup lah, that is the contributories tu. So tapi dia ada limit dia lah, mungkin dia kata dia limit tu up to certain amount, for example for the debts of the companies. Yeah? So these people are also interested ataupun orang yang ada kepentingan lah dalam winding up of the company. So because they need to know their liabilities as well. Yeah? So any other person also may be appointed by the meeting of the creditors. Yeah? So the duties and function are to assist the liquidator in carrying out his duties. Okay, some powers of the liquidators can only be exercised with authority of the committee of inspection. So dalam 10 schedule tu ada dia punya role yang agak panjang lah, kita tengok general saja. So basic idea adalah the committee of inspection assist the liquidator in the process of the liquidation. Yeah? So they also has power to approve the salary of the liquidators. Yeah? And then the liquidator will be able to consult the directors through the committee without having to convene formal creditors and companies meeting. So this make things easier for the liquidator. So maksudnya dia terus je jumpa the members because members of the committee of inspection who will ensure that the liquidator conduct its duty according to the interest of the company and the creditors. Ya, sebab dalam proses winding up, the main person ataupun the main interest tu should be the creditors. Ya, because is the company tu dah pinjam duit, dah berhutang kan dengan creditors. So bila company tu nak tutup, kena pastikan yang hutang creditors dibayar dengan baik lah. Ya. Okay, itu the main idea, yeah, to ensure the interests of them are taken care of in the process. Yeah. So that is the committee of inspection. Yeah. So ni kita come to the procedure yang tadi itulah. Yeah. Yang kita dah tengok. So mungkin dia macam kita wrap up yang tadi tu. Pertama kena ada statutory declaration by the directors. Yeah. Okay, and then appoint an interim liquidator. So then notice of the company's meeting will be issued to all of the creditors, to come to the meeting. Okay, and then to pass a resolution and to appoint a liquidator yang akan proceed with the management of the liquidation after the resolution is passed. Okay, so that is the process. Basic idea adalah proses ni macam straightforward je. So in which dia kena ada declaration to ensure that the company is whether the company is solvent or not. So if it is solvent, dia akan jadi members voluntary winding up. If it is insolvent, dia akan jadi creditors voluntary winding up. So the process sama, notice of meeting must be issued. Okay, then there will be a meeting of the company involving the creditors sekali. So they will pass a resolution. Kalau dalam keadaan yang time expire just now, yang tu ordinary resolution only. Dalam situation yang lain, it will be the special resolution, that is substantial majority of the company. Dia kena 75% of the the creditors. Dia depending on the values of the credits ataupun the debt of the debt. So dia tengok values of the creditors rather than numbers of the people. So mungkin kalau the creditors tu mungkin 2 orang creditors, mungkin seorang bagi pinjam duit pada company tu mungkin 80% of the debt. So dia punya say is powerful lah. So we need to have agreement of the creditor in order for the company to be wound up, to ensure the interest of the creditor is well taken care of. Okay, so that is the procedure. So now we talk about when it commences. Bila point of time in which the winding up of the company started in such a process. Okay, so when it commences is where an interim liquidator has been appointed, yang dalam creditors tadi tu kan. Okay, so the voluntary winding up to will start on the date of the director's declaration of the company's inability to carry on its business by reason of its liabilities. Okay, and then it is lodged with the registrar. So the date of the declaration too is crucial here. So this is in the situation where an interim liquidator has been appointed. So maksudnya dalam keadaan yang creditors voluntary winding up tu lah. So bila ada director's declaration, yang statutory declaration tu, yang the company is unable to pay its debt tu, then the company is considered to have started to be wound up. Sebab dia ada implication dia. So nanti kita tengok what is the implication of the company's voluntary winding up. So dia sama macam yang kita belajar part yang bankruptcy. Dia started bankruptcy, started to relate back to dia punya act of bankruptcy kan. So yang dekat winding up ni, kalau creditors voluntary winding up tu at the date of the director's declaration of the insolvency. So dalam keadaan lain, in any other cases, at the time of the passing of the resolution for voluntary winding up. So maksudnya of the date of the company's meeting in which the resolution is achieved by the companies in order for it to be wound up. So that's the date is important. So that is because effect dia adalah effect when a company has been wound up, bila they started it has commenced to be wound up, so the company shall cease to carry on its business from the commencement of the winding up, except so far as it is required in the opinion of the liquidator for the beneficial winding up. So the person who has power to determine the liquidation, whether the company is to carry on business is the liquidator. Kalau dia rasa macam mungkin dia continue sementara untuk habiskan barang-barang stok apa semua dalam store apa semua, so then it may be allowed to continue, because in such a situation it will benefit the company, it will benefit the creditors as well. Okay, and then the second one is that the corporate state and corporate powers of the company shall continue until it is dissolved. So banyaklah yang tu kita kena tengok dalam dia punya company companies article of association kan, memorandum of association kan, dia punya powers. So for example, powers dia is to sell the powers to do something, dia punya as a company tu will continue. So any transfer of shares and any alteration in the status of the members made after the commencement of the winding up shall be void, except with the sanction of the liquidator in the matter of transfer of shares. Okay, for example, kalau if the liquidator feels that the transfer of shares will benefit the company, so that it may be allowed to continue. Alright, so that is the about voluntary winding up. So kita masih ada lagi topik yang akan relate juga together with the voluntary and compulsory winding up, as to how it is to be liquidated, macam distribution of the asset of the company, investigation of the asset of the company tu later on. Yang tu lepas kita tengok yang compulsory winding up, because they are similar. Okay, so any question? Pukul 10 ya. Any question before we we finish? Saya ada meeting sekejap sebenarnya pukul 10. Ada. Okay, boleh? So saya rasa it's really straightforward. Dia punya proses tu differentiated by dia punya declaration of solvency. Kalau creditors, declaration of insolvency, statutory declaration. Kemudian appointment of the interim liquidator. Yang tu difference between the two. Okay, so saya ada soalan yang dalam, untuk for the purpose of your tutorial, kita ada soalan dalam goals. It's just simple quiz to test your understanding. Mana goals saya tak ada. Okay, boleh tengok dalam goals tu bawah topik yang so that would be for the purpose of your to test your understanding for the purpose of the tutorial. Okay, bankruptcy. Dia dekat bawah sekali. Saya macam kena susun balik. Goals ni macam dah banyak sangat dia jadi terabur. Okay, so dekat sini voluntary winding up. So today's topic. Okay, and then this is the quiz on voluntary winding up. So this is for the purpose of your tutorial. Okay, saya tak sempat juga nak tengok hari tu yang tutorial yang minggu lepas tu kan. Apa nama dia? What are the differences between ini pun saya tak sempat nak tengok lagi. Kita ada 14-13 replies lah. Thank you so much for this. Saya tengok, saya kata nak bagi hadiah hari tu kan. Okay, so this is really useful lah. This is so good. Looks very good. Yeah. So it benefit your members as well. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Saya sebenarnya ada meeting dengan tengah tunggu dia punya signal. Okay, so anything, if you have any question, mungkin pertaining to your test, boleh ke rasanya boleh concentrate ke untuk ni, untuk apa kita punya test nanti. So if you have any problem, please let me know. Yeah, alright. So remember to fill in the form here. Kita ada berapa orang sekarang? 80 orang ya. Copy ke download di sini. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You're welcome. Saya stop recording. Saya leave meeting.